Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the show where AI goes from hype to habit. I'm your host, Rajiv Sajja. Each week, we make AI approachable and actionable for real estate professionals who want to stay ahead of the curve. From lead generation to listing presentations, from marketing strategy to client experience, you'll hear how top agents and industry leaders are using AI to work smarter, save time, and grow their business. So whether you're just getting started or already experimenting with AI tools, this podcast gives you ideas you can use right now. Now let's get to this week's special guest. Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash. And today, I got to tell you, I have a rock star in the prop tech space that is doing yeoman things in solutions, specifically with AI. We'll get into all of that in Shayan Hamidi. And he's coming to us from Madrid, Spain, which is one of the bucket list items that my family has to visit, Spain. But he's a serial entrepreneur, a Forbes contributor, and he's the co-founder and CEO of a company by the name of Rechat that is building the real estate AI super app in many ways. And we'll get into all of that. Shayan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rajiv. Excited to be here. Love the podcast. So it's an honor to be here and have a chat with you. I love the conversations you have with folks.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You know, when I first launched the podcast, Jan 3rd, I think was my first episode, 2024, which is crazy. The time that went through.
24. Wow.
24, yeah. So we're like episode 110 plus,
You're a,
whatever it
you're a
is.
dinosaur
I'm a
in the
dinosaur in
in the world of
podcasting.
AI. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So I started it with the whole notion of making AI approachable and actionable for real estate professionals.
Mhm.
And what really intrigued me when I got to know your company through several things I've gone through, and also what you're doing to move the needle for agents to embrace AI meaningfully. I thought this was going to be a great conversation. So welcome to the podcast. But let's start off with, I gave you an elevator pitch for probably what a storied career in progress. So could you take us through how you got into real estate and bring us to today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started as an operator. So I owned and operated a real estate brokerage for about 6 years. And that's where I got a chance to kind of feel the pain firsthand, if you may. So I had a lot of great agents, spent a ton of money on technology, but it was just such a pain, like it always has been. 15, 20 different logins, all sorts of different products, a lot of inefficiencies. And I think the end result was our agents were not using our products, right? Which is quite common thread in our industry, and that's pretty much kind of what that frustration drove me to kind of put together Rechat. I founded Rechat, and with this notion that I want to build a product that agents are going to use. And honestly, when I was kind of doing this, which I think for the most part it's been the same, we had like it was black and white. You either do point two solutions, right, which we kind of opted into best in class, and we ended up with 15, 20 different products, or you had these kind of all-in-one solutions. We call these legacy solutions that were pretty closed up. They offered you more of what you needed, but it was like you were within the system and you were locked in, and it just made it difficult. So I just wanted to have something that was mobile first and user friendly, and that's kind of what WeChat is, and that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, when a few months ago when I saw your demo, it was very telling that your entire demo was from a mobile phone. In many ways, and that tells you your focus, and because most agents are on the go, right? I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about, what went into all of that, and in terms of the feature functionalities, et cetera. So, what was your first light bulb moment? Most people's light bulb moment was when ChatGPT first launched, November 2022. But I'm curious because you've been obviously a prop tech entrepreneur for a while. What was your first light bulb moment with AI, and when you felt like I needed to build a product that had AI embedded deeply in its workflows?
Yeah, with AI specifically. So we've been using AI for a number of years
Yeah.
now. But I think a lot of it is just the stuff we use behind the scenes, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning for, I don't know, analyzing numbers and recommendations, predictions, those sort of stuff. And obviously, when ChatGPT came out, it was like wow, it was a whole different experience. So you could actually talk to your tool and you could collaborate with it, and it just translated things, and it was pretty fascinating. Obviously, for me, just like for anyone else, I spent a ton of time using it. But honestly, I think the first time that if I want to call it like a light bulb moment, I would say about 8 months ago or so, when we saw kind of we had AI create an entire listing campaign from the ground up within 30 seconds or so. And that was just an aha moment for me. And I think what really stood out, and I think now we're starting to think about that a lot more with agentic AI, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
think at the time, what was fascinating is that, I was focused a lot about this conversation around, will AI take people's jobs? Will it make you more efficient? Will it, all of that? And I think for the first time, I felt like it went beyond efficiency, and we were talking about multiplication, right? So I'm here, I'm on a call with you doing a podcast, but my AI assistant is behind the scenes creating a comp for me, sending a message to my buyer, just like the engine is running, and I can triple 5x my time during the time that I have. And I think that was kind of like the aha moment that, this is going to be a whole different ball game. I think what's really fascinating is the amount of work we can do with AI now that we never did before, because it was not affordable. We didn't have the resources, but now we can actually get to it. So anyway, so that was, I think, the first time I'm like, wow, we can really take this to a whole different level. Yeah.
Yeah. As you alluded to earlier about why you formed Rechat, this disconnected tech stack that agents are just take too much time to embrace it. And we'll put a link to all the resources in the show notes. You should check out Rechat's website. One of the things I loved about it is how you sort of position the connected experience. Like you have Studio, which is your like almost like a design theme, People, which is your CRM, and the Deals, which is your transaction management. And then we'll get to Lucy. Okay, Lucy is not Cheyenne or my girlfriend, but it is the AI assistant in Rechat, and how that sort of came about. Because I'm sure when you put Lucy together, let's kind of dig in a little bit on the AI components that power Rechat and why you're seeing. I mean, I saw a recent article that talked about your adoption numbers at certain brokerages. Like it was a case study. I saw a 65% number with one brokerage. But talk about what went into how you looked at Lucy specifically to take stuff, automate the mundane for the agents so they can go do more of the meaningful, right? So let's kind of dig into that a little bit.
No, I think that's a great conversation to have. And I think that's where kind of we went from writing listing descriptions with AI to actually doing the work, right? So there's a
Yeah.
big difference between the two, and I think Lucy was the first time we kind of experienced that within our product. That so Lucy is an AI assistant; it sits within the product. As you mentioned, Rechat is an operating platform, so we have all the marketing components right built within Rechat. We have Studio, that's the marketing stuff. We have the people center, and now you have this AI assistant that has, and for AI to be efficient and effective, you essentially need context, you need data, right? Which is kind of like, hey, here's the stuff you need to know, and also the rail guards. Here's what you should
Yeah.
know not to do, and then you have tools, as you know, right? So if you don't have the tools, there's not much you can do. So now we have this operating platform that has a deep amount of data across the journey, and we have all these different tools. We have all the marketing tools, all the CRM tools, and now we have Lucy, who's been learned and trained on how to use all the product. So she knows the best practices in marketing. She knows what time you should send your email, what's a good time to share your social media post, and all these little things that a good marketer would know. And then she also is an expert in using Rechat, right? So now as I mentioned to you, if there's one word that I've always wanted Rechat to be associated with, is the word simple. We focus on simplicity. That's it. All we wanted to do is to build a simple product. And we took that path and we said, hey, where else in your journey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, do you need simplicity, right? So let's just introduce that. And I thought, what was mind blowing is that for a product, so you still go through Rechat and, truthfully, you do something that maybe took you half an hour, and it takes you 5 minutes because you click four things and boom, you're done. But now with Lucy, you don't even need to know the four things. You literally pick up the phone and you say, Lucy, create me a website for this listing. Lucy, run a campaign for this listing. Create a video for this, whatever that I have, right? And she creates it, right? So, and then we've created this domino thing that, when you order pizza, the domino
Yeah.
kind of ordering system. So it's kind of like that. You have it on Uber too, actually. So when you order food, but it tells you like, Lucy is looking up the data in the market. Lucy is looking at your design preferences. She's building the stuff. She creates a website. She launched the website, right? So as you go through that, you're like, damn, that was like, I don't know, 10, 15 steps in a very simple product that you don't even need to learn. So I think this is pretty awesome in terms of the user experience and how accessible it becomes, because with Lucy specifically, and I think you're going to see more of these user experiences across the board, that you can literally talk to your tool, right? You can say it in a human natural language, as we all know, and then it gets the work done, which is I think is awesome.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I think as you're starting to talk about, it shows the work it's doing as much as it's an easy way to interact with it, like instructions, audio computing. I'm going to come back to audio computing here in a second. But, when those of you that are listening to this pod, if you use deep research in any of these tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, and you ask it to show thinking, it shows you the reasoning it's going through. And that's very similar to what Lucy's doing
Very
within the
similar.
guardrails you sort of established. But I'm also a firm believer, and I think your product is a great testament to this, Shayan, is that I think AI will revolutionize audio computing.
Hmm.
In a way we interact with stuff. I don't want to learn a CRM. I just want to talk to it, right? I mean, just think about that. I mean, I think you're executing on that vision, which is very exciting to me. And I think I think the best is yet to come in that whole regard, right?
No, I totally agree. I love that. I mean, first of all, talking to your CRM. I mean, that's the idea, right? It's just
Yeah.
it's a different mind. It just shifts how you think of. That CRM used to be a tool that you used to go out of your way to input data into it because you've
Yeah.
been told it's good for you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someday it's going to help
Exactly.
you out. And it was work, literally work. And now you can talk to it. So on that note, so we have this the new kind of functionality that we're rolling out, which I'm using now on daily basis myself. It's called AI memo, right? It's one of the functionalities on Lucy, but essentially it records my voice, right? So let's say I'm going to a listing appointment, right? We're having a deep conversation. It records the entire voice, or I get off on a phone call with a buyer. I'm driving around. I leave a voice memo, and what she does is that she processes the entire thing. She turns it in, takes a transcript, records that for me, takes all the highlights of the conversation, organizes that for me, sets the follow up for me. I mean, it's a full thing. And you look at the stats. I was literally doing the research the other day. About 50%. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's actually mind blowing. 50% of what we hear, we forget within 1 hour. So everything we talk about, me and you right now, in an hour, we're going to forget half of that. By nighttime, 75%, right? And when you think about the business we're in, all the details, every detail matters, right? And I personally am a strong believer that the difference between an average service and something exceptional is literally in the details, right? and
100%.
and it's impossible for us to remember all of that. Now you have a tool that you don't have to do anything. Like you hear it, you just talk to it, as you said. Hey, here's what's happening, here's everything that you need to know. You do a dump literally as you're walking and thinking about other things, and it takes that and converts it into something that's extremely useful. I think these are the stuff that we're going to see more and more, that literally helps every agent or every professional to be that much better at what they do. I'm using it all
100%.
the time.
And it's interesting. I mean, I think adoption, when we talk about adoption, which is a key metric because brokers are offering a tool of value or perceived value. And the reason adoption has always been suffering is because of disparate tech stack, which you alluded to earlier, but also the ease of use, right? I mean, and most agents, almost all agents that get a license can talk. And if you can talk, you can use Rechat is really what it is, right?
It
And
is. It's funny you say that. I'm a strong believer, and I think I just recently wrote something about this, but on the first principles, right? And I think when you really go back to what you just said, like we all need, we all day long we're looking to use products every day, right? Regardless of what we want to do, there's a whole concept around called jobs to be done. You probably heard of this, right? Like we need to get all these jobs done. We need products to get it done. But what we don't want to do as humans, we don't want to use difficult, hard, complicated products. We just need simple. And we're attracted to that. We love Dyson. We love Apple. We love products that just work. And I think that goes a long way. So anyway, I think that's a pretty good conversation to have. And I do think that AI takes that to a whole different level because, as you said, everybody can speak, everybody can text. And that's how you get the work done. And you do it in a natural way, right? Like you do it in the way
100%.
me and you are talking right now.
Yeah. And, to double down on it, this is not the focus of the episode, but I started using Whisperflow,
Okay.
AI.
Yeah.
and it tracks like how fast you type, and then over time it tells you. So literally, if you want to 5x your productivity, just get Whisperflow. I mean, I just press a button and talk conversationally on my computer to sort of type anything. And so I think looking at productivity tools like that, like Rechat for your business to run your business, so you can actually do more of the meaningful client relationships, build that the last mile, I call it. People that win in the last mile are the ones that figure out all of the back end stuff. So I would love to get into a little bit of Lucy's analytics since you've sort of launched it across many companies. What is the number one thing agents ask Lucy, which is the most popular that shaves time off? Let's kind of maybe touch on the top two or three, if you don't mind.
So I'll tell you that, and then I do want to circle back to adoption because we were talking about that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's pretty interesting. I want to connect the dots. So I think what Lucy's been doing is she's been doing all sorts of different things, helping agents with their marketing and with their people center, right? And she helps certain things with transactions. But I think on the marketing front, the listing marketing stuff is off the chart. People love it because it's one of those things that I think it goes to the heart of agents love to market their products. I mean, they want to market their own brand, they want to market their products. But when it's difficult, when it's time consuming, they can't afford to do it, or they're only going to do it if it's $1 million listing, or if it's so now you have this tool that on the fly you can ask it to do things. So we're seeing more and more agents do that. And the return rate is unbelievable because once they come and do it, they're like, the learning curve is low, the results is there. So I'm going to do it. Now we see, which is pretty fascinating, agents creating marketing collaterals, walking into a listing presentation
Oh,
before to even get the listing, right? They're like, hey, my team is thinking, here's how we're going to market your listing. Here's the stuff we put together already. And that shows you're way more prepared than the other agent that is trying to even figure out what your listing looks like. So I think that's been pretty interesting to see. We have a product called Agent Network. The Agent Network tool is a really fascinating tool because it uses AI in a very subtle way. It essentially, any address, anywhere you give it, it will do a real-time market research and figure out who are the top agents within that particular area for what you're looking for. So imagine you have a listing and you want to market this listing. About 92% or so, I don't know what the stats is, you may know better, of listings are sold to another agent, and an agent that brings a buyer with them. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find who's the best agent in this market that may have the buyer. This tool does that for you. And it then works like magic every time because it literally goes through the noise. It figures out, based on numbers and recent history and all of that, who's the right people, and helps your marketing to be a lot more targeted, which is super, super effective. And I think that's another tool that agents absolutely love, or brokers use that for recruitment. And it works because it's targeted and it shows results.
and it's important to point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this agent network is agents from in the MLS across all brands that are active in that marketplace. It's not just your company if you're using Rechat.
Absolutely. So this is yeah. So these are agents within the market, right? As you said,
Yeah.
and I think that's where things really, I think within the company as well. So your company
Yeah.
agents show up, but I think where things really shine is when your network is extended, and within the market, all of a sudden you're connected to who's who that matters for this particular listing, and they're a lot more receptive to what you share with them because it's a targeted message for what they have.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dig in a little bit more into what you're thinking of building. Like, where do you see Lucy going? If there's like a Lucy 2.0, there's always, being a prop tech entrepreneur, you're always looking at a roadmap of, hey, what can we build that we're hearing this from consumers. Lucy does a lot of cool things, but there's probably areas that Lucy doesn't do now that you already are thinking of building that will help agents. Again, your core focus, which is exciting to me, is that you're already focused on taking stuff off agents' plate and making them shine in front of their clients, right? And making
Yeah.
that process frictionless, right? So give me a little bit of a futuristic view of where you think you're going short term and long term.
Yeah, I like that question a lot. So I think this whole concept of agentic AI is very relevant, right? So we're
Yeah.
really focusing on that because that's where you're going to actually doing the work and doing a series of works, or executing on a workflow, and actually bringing out the results for the agent or whoever that's using it. which we think is extremely meaningful. But I think there's still two types of agentic AI. You have reactive and proactive. So reactive can be that you call something, you say, hey, go, hypothetically, go, I want to go on a trip. And it goes and does the research for you, figures out where you should go, maybe purchase the tickets and whatnot. But what I'm very fascinated and working with my team on is proactive agentic AI, right? So it's kind of like you're not even necessarily asking it to do something, but the AI is there. It's just, just like how you would be there, and it's kind of working through the system for you, right? And based on what it's learning, based on the signals, all the triggers, it proactively does things for you, right? So it figures out, hey, your listing's been sitting out here in the market for a little bit longer than expected for such a listing within this market, within these conditions right now. I'm looking at the other comparables, they're moving a little faster. Maybe it's time to adjust the price, proactively make that suggestion or push a marketing, right? So I think there's a lot of room to explore how AI can be proactive and help you in that sense. And a lot of our focus today is on that. So just and now again, we're connected to so Rechat connects to your Google, to your Outlook. So your entire conversation, everything is there. And now it can kind of, really understand that, hey, so and so told you 2 months ago that they're going to be thinking about this and that. And 2 months is now. Maybe we should do this. And by the way, they did something else. Guess what? I prepared something that I'm ready to send to them, right? So now you're going from, and the way I honestly think about this when it comes to product development, I actually don't think about AI. I go back to the basics. I say, hey, I'm sitting here. What's it? Well, how does a good assistant, like, what would I want today in my life, right? Do I want somebody that I'm constantly running after and saying, go do this for me, go do that for me? Or do I want the perfect assistant proactively comes to me and says, hey, here's the stuff that's important to it. Here's what I've got prepared. Here's what I'm going to go ahead and do. And anyway, so I think that's where we're getting very excited about how we can proactively help the agents and the broker as well. And I think that also that is the broker side is also pretty interesting for us on the enterprise side. As you know, the broker margins have always been, getting thinner and thinner, and the expectation is higher than ever, right? So agents expect good service from internally and support, and there's a lot of ways that we can apply AI to the operational side of things for them,
For sure.
to make that better for them, whether it's compliance, whether it's streamlining, whether it's just additional support. And we do that internally for our own company as well. We are aggressively obsessed with applying AI to our everything we do internally, whether it's our MLS department, whether it's design department, whether it's our engineering department, all sorts of customer support. How do we take advantage of it to improve the experiences? Or
Yeah, so it's interesting what you talked about listings, right? So kind of giving them, doing it more proactively, bringing stuff to the agent's attention without them having to ask. Are you also thinking about, if my listing's been sitting on the market, is the intelligence coming from all of the other listings in Rechat that are similar price range, things they've done that I could potentially do to move the listing forward? Is that how you're sort of thinking of intelligence across the platform to share some insights?
I think both across the platform and within the marketplace, right?
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Kind of analyzing, hey, listings that are selling within a couple of X number of weeks. Here's how they're priced. Here's how and I think there's a lot of learning to be done, and I think that those are great examples of how you can use AI to process a lot of data that you as a human can't sit down
Yeah,
and kind of review and study, and then and have the informed decision result in something, right? So
for sure.
not just that, hey, we've been sitting in the market for too long, but hey, we've been sitting in the market for too long, and here's exactly what we're going to do next to actually sell this product.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And to your point, I mean, listing, almost like a listing enhancer, listing 360, and then an agent 360 for the broker.
Yeah.
Agents that are in the marketplace that are doing these things are succeeding. Here's how you can help your agent to improve broker margins and things of that nature. It's a fascinating conversation. You mentioned something about adoption. You want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about that, and then
I
we'll.
do. I do. I think there's a lot of so adoption is something we've obsessed over from the very beginning, uh, and we're excited to have some of uh, the leading numbers when it comes to adoption. That you mentioned a number. I just wanted to kind of correct that. So the
Sure.
study with the study we did recently was with Serhant, and the adoption they have is 84%. And you on average we get about 75% or so, which is super high. But what's fascinating is that, and this is an independent study that was done with the Wake Group from Serhant. We power up their entire brokerage. But they also found that, which was fascinating, is the people that were using their tools, like Rechat in this case, they were actually seeing 32% growth in their revenue as well, right? So it's
Mm.
not just like, being more efficient, saving time, but actually being able to do things that are more effective on the other side. So, but we use AI all sorts of ways to drive the adoption. So, a lot of folks in this industry don't use their CRM system, whether they have a CRM or don't have a CRM system. And a lot of it is because you open it up and it's a huge mess. You don't
Yeah.
have the right data in there. It's kind of like opening up QuickBooks and your books are a mess. Like it's no useful, right? Like you can't get a P&L out of it. So it's the same thing with CRM systems. And but what we're doing as an example is like we have your CRM all the time, 24/7, monitored and cleaned up, right? Like the AI is looking at conversations, oh, so and so's contact information updated. Here's something else happened, and now you have a live. Per se, you have a live CRM system, right? It's a living thing on its own that's keeping itself updated instead of you having to constantly maintain to it. And if you take 2 weeks of vacation, everything's still and outdated now. So I think those are the sort of things. And when you come to the product to do something simple, because your goal today is I want to do a marketing, let's say I want to send this beautiful email campaign. So if you come to the product and now you can tell the product, create me an email campaign without having to do anything, and then you say send it to my to my buyers or to my sphere or whatever, and that list is also updated, you get results. That's where you get adoption, right? If
Yeah.
you come in and you're trying to do that and you're hitting the walls, and now I got to update my CRM system, I got to go import another spreadsheet, I got to do something else, people give up. And literally those are the sort of things, people attempt to do things, agents attempt to do things, but their life is busy, and if it's complicated they give up, just like all of us. I do it too all the time.
Yeah, and also talk a little bit about your onboarding. So if like an agent, like I think one of the things is frictionless onboarding. Like most of them, when they change CRMs, because it's this black box of data, they got to get a spreadsheet, and you lose a lot of people in that process, right?
You do.
Versus most conversations, most people's databases isn't their email, right? And if you can kind of get that situated directly into your CRM and you get going. So talk a little bit about quickly about how you help agents onboard, and I'll
I
get to a few more.
love I love using uh, all the use cases, especially with AI, when you apply to all the boring, not fun stuff that
Yeah,
matters so much, right? Like
100%.
this conversation around data entry and cleanup. I mean, it's a mess, right? And nobody likes it. And again, as we said, like most of these CRMs are. They never use the CRM because they never even imported their contacts to begin with. So we've done a whole bunch of things just to give you to
Yeah.
speed this up. I'll give you a sense of it, just to give ideas of how it can be used. But one is like we connect to, with one click you can connect within Rechat, you connect to your Outlook, your Google, your follow-up boss, whatever tools that you have, and it starts syncing all your data. But not only it syncs the data, the AI starts going through that and creates these gorgeous timelines of every conversation you've had, right? So now you went from dead contacts within your Outlook into a rich profile that tells you what's happening, and that's your history. I mean, that comes for free because now it's being processed in a different way. Then they, as they get into the product, so their contacts coming in, the profiles are built, and then we connect to the MLS system, right? We connect to the MLS system. This used to be such a big headache for agents to come, for us to figure out what it is. And now what we do is that when they're signing up through the process, we pick up their email, and through AI, we're able to go identify them on the MLS, make an automatic connection with their MLS account. So when they come in, they have this wow moment that their listings is already loaded in their system, right? So when you come in, and now it's fully personalized in a way that, oh my God, like my listings are here, and there's a big thing that says click here to see the marketing for it, right? The chances of you doing that is much higher than saying you get into a product, now go figure out how you connect to the MLS or how you upload your listing information. So all those little things I think make a huge difference. So, there's a big thing when we talk about onboarding, it's time to value, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Like how quickly do you get people to actually do something meaningful that they say, I got value out of this, I'm going to come back. That's essential. That's crucial, right? Now, imagine if you get into a product and it's like, well, spend the next 3 weeks, figure out how you get into anything, right? Whereas you get in and it's kind of like just promoting already. It's like, here's somebody's birthday you got to contact. And by the way, I created this marketing for your thing. It's just you're that much closer to actually doing something that means that drives value, and that's adoption. That brings you back to use it, right? And so many other ways, like with the automation, with the reminders, all the different things that help you kind of uh, just get moving with your work, right? And like just make it simpler for you. I think the best technology, the best design, and you probably heard this, but it has to be in the background. It can't be
100%.
on your way. It can't be something that you're dealing with. You actually got to walk away and be like, what happened there? Like I don't even like that was I don't know what we just did. We did it kind of thing, right? And that's kind of where the magic happens. And I think now we have more and more opportunities to do those stuff with AI because we just couldn't do it before, right? There was a lot of human intervention that was needed that's we still need, but less and less for many of these things.
For sure, for sure. This is great conversation, Cheyenne. I could talk to you for hours, you know that, but
Me too.
we got to wind it down a little bit here. So, anything else you want to add about the roadmap or anything else that you haven't touched on before I get to my final two questions I ask all my guests?
So we have a really big release coming out on Lucy. I kind of touched on our approach there. I've been told not to actually mention what it is exactly because
Fair
they're kind
enough.
of making a big announcement around it. But I think I touched on kind of how we're approaching this conversation, it's just a platform play, right? I think there's a lot of
Exactly.
stuff to come, and I don't think it's a feature conversation, but
Yeah.
it's really just a matter of seeing how you become this enabled kind of professional through these tools.
So, what is the timing of Lucy 2.0?
There's a big release coming out this month in February.
Okay, okay. We're recording
Yeah,
this in February, so by the time you listen to this episode, which is early March, like first week of March, it
this is
should
yeah.
be out, and you'll have Cheyenne's email if it's not out. No, I'm kidding. But it will be out right around the time, so that's good stuff. It just shows that Rechat and Cheyenne and his team are constantly working on improving the experience for the agents, and that's your key takeaway here. So let me get to the final two questions, Cheyenne. You've been a practitioner. You're now a builder, prop tech entrepreneur, and you've been in the industry from like when you started the practitioner. How long now?
About 16 years, I would say.
16
Yeah,
years, yeah. So
17.
if you were an agent today, what advice would you give them? Like your key piece of advice that you had to give to your younger self, or if you're an agent?
Um, Maybe different advices. So
Sure.
for an agent, I strongly believe in the next years to come, 3 years, 5 years, the best agents that are going to own this industry are not the ones that are most talented, and they're not the ones that are the hardest working, but it's the ones that are working within the best systems. So
Hmm.
I strongly believe that if you're an agent, and obviously AI is the name of the game now, so you really have to push yourself to start using this thing. So if this was my day one, I would literally think really hard about becoming very comfortable using AI in every front for everything that I do. And then just go back to the basics, right? Like, I think we've always said this industry is about the relationships. I don't think that's ever going to change. So figure out how you can use these tools to do more of that, right? To free up more of time to be closer to the people and whatnot. So that would be kind of my focus. I think now more than ever, it's important to make sure you are not you're not becoming an agent for today's market, but you're going to be the agent of the future, right? Because time is moving so fast that if you're just doing what the basics are, I think you're going to have a tough time. Um, so that would be my thought in terms of agents.
Perfect.
I do think, regardless of what you do, I think tripling down on using AI is extremely important. And if you're using AI today, try to use it 50 times more. And I think that's just the name of the game. And there's so much learning from that. Become better at it, become better at prompting and all the other stuff. But if the question is about, what advice would I have for the younger version of me when I started, let's say, Rechat as an example,
Yeah.
I think so I think when we started this company, we had a big obsession around product. It was kind of like the early days of Apple when they put in Macintosh. We had a huge obsession around customer service, like the early days in Amazon. Uh, and we, and if you think about like the life of Rechat, if it's in two parts, the first part of it was a lot of that, and we work very closely with the people and with with the brokers and with the agents we work with, and we really try to nail that part. But what I did on the second half was to actually start building more relationships, networking more, doing marketing, and I didn't do enough of that on the first half. And I think that was a mistake. I actually think that if I were to do this from the beginning, I think you want to focus on both parts. I saw a huge lift and help on many different fronts when I actually started kind of connecting more and being more part of the industry than before that. So, anyways, that would be kind of my thinking for myself if I ever started this from scratch.
No, that's perfect. And I think I do presentations and keynotes just like you do, and I feel like this is the year of the AI powered agent.
Mhm.
And I think over time, not just now, but into the future, and your platform facilitates that too. It's not just not learning AI with the ChatGPTs and the Groks of the world, but it's also embracing AI responsibly in platforms that you live in every day, and that make it your job easier to build those relationships and free up your time.
Absolutely.
Automate the ordinary so you can personalize the extraordinary, as I normally say.
Absolutely. I
Right?
love
So,
that.
last question before I let you go: are you a book or a podcast person, Cheyenne?
Both, but books, I would say
Okay,
books.
so lean on book,
I
um,
love books.
and give me. I know that I assume you're an avid reader of some level. And
I am.
is there a book that has influenced you way more than any other books that you feel like is your go-to that you read, that you want the audience to read?
Um, there are a number of books, but the one that I've been going to for the past 2 years, let's say, and really kind of like reading it over and over and just like really honing in is called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Oh yeah,
You've heard of this, yeah?
yes, for sure.
It's a, I think it really it tells a story about how they try to build this restaurant from the ground up to be the best restaurant in the world. And I think it's a common journey regardless of what you do, but it really talks about, I think it teaches you how, as a business, if you want to be excellent, you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about every detail, about every moment, about every relationship. And I think that just stands out, and I think that's so relevant to everything we talked about today, because with AI, you can do that way more on every front, right? So, but I think right now we live in a world of that's all about experiences. There was a recent study done by McKinsey that said companies that can actually nail the experience and provide something more personalized are making about 42 or something percent more in revenues, which is huge, right? And I think
Huge.
and more people are spending money on experiences than they are on products or services. So anyways, I think this whole understanding of how important this is and how more and more important it becomes, and I think the book really does a good job at nailing that.
Yeah, it sure does. I think last year, maybe like January, when I was traveling to India like a year ago, I had gotten that book because somebody was talking about it on a podcast or something, and I read it all the way there to India. And it's a long flight to India. If you know Madrid, I mean double
Yeah.
Madrid.
Do you
Uh,
go often to India?
I at least go once a year. I just got back in this
No
January
way.
too with my
I've
with my
never been. I
daughter.
would
So,
love to go with you.
well, I will.
Let's plan
I
that.
can hook you up. Yeah, for sure. So, and I read the book, and it applies. It transcends all industries,
Hmm.
literally, right?
It
That
really
interface with
does.
the consumer. And a fun story: I was at a conference in Vegas in October 2025, where I was doing some breakout sessions, but the keynote there was Will Guidara, the author of
Yeah.
Unreasonable Hospitality. So, and his keynote was, obviously, it just resonated at another level because had read the
Hmm.
book, and he talks about the whole experience and some of that stuff. So, great
Very
takeaway. We'll
special.
include a link to the book in the show notes. Cheyenne, this has been fun, my friend, and I hope to see you in person. It's been too long because
I
I've never
know.
met you in person, I don't think.
I know.
So we talked a lot, and we've been on calls a lot, but I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll bump into you at some industry
Soon.
conference this year.
Yeah, it's gonna happen very
Yeah.
soon.
If you found value in the show, follow it so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry you care for, and leave us a review as it helps us reach more real estate professionals like you.